Am I the idiot for cutting off my alcoholic ex after he stalked me and sent creepy gifts? We've been dating for about a year. I really do love him and care about him, but he's a pretty intense alcoholic and constantly lies to me, especially about his drinking. I believe the straw that broke the camel's back was a couple of weeks ago when he literally took my card out of my wallet while I was in the shower, used it, and tried to lie to me about it when I was looking for it after the shower. He literally said, "Maybe you left it at the bar last night," knowing full well he used it not even an hour prior. This really upset me because he knows I absolutely do not mind paying for him as I have been while he's been financially struggling, yet he stole from me. Anyway, I decided to end it this Saturday. I have been thinking about it and wanting to do it for quite some time, but haven't really done it because he's a little reckless and I was afraid he would do something stupid. Well, I went to a bar down the street that night and he showed up completely intoxicated, barely able to stand. I was shocked, and the waitress and security guard were talking to him by the time I left. Apparently after that, he fell and hit his head and they called an ambulance. His mom told me this. He's fine and everything. I did go visit him at the hospital the next morning. Apparently the doctor said he's never seen alcohol levels this high before. His mom was in tears and everyone is really pushing for him to get help, including myself. But I made it clear that we are no longer in a relationship, that this is something he needs to do for himself and separate from me. He's been going through bouts of binge calling me since then, texting me. I didn't answer most, but I did answer a few calls because I felt bad and I'm worried. He keeps making promises of getting better, keeps asking to come over for cuddles and things, and every time we talk he'll say he loves me and tries to force me to say it back. I kind of put my foot down when we talked earlier at noon, so I haven't heard from him since. I just feel so bad. I wish he wasn't hurting so much. I don't want him to do something foolish and risk losing his job. He just got promoted but had to go to night shift for it. I'm very worried about him, but I've been feeling trapped in the relationship and I can't do it any longer. I'm not really sure what advice I'm asking for. To add, thanks to everyone who responded. Sorry I didn't reply to anyone. This is a bit tough for me. It's unanimous that I should go no contact with him. I won't block him because in my state there needs to be evidence, like something needs to happen to be able to get a restraining order. I did completely stop responding to those who predicted he'll just show up at my apartment. Well, he did this morning when I was getting ready for work. He was sober though, thank God. I didn't let him in, gave him his stuff back so he has no excuse to come back, and told him once again it's over and to leave me alone, and if he does it again, I will call the police. I just bought a Ring camera off Amazon and it should arrive later today. I signed my lease not too long ago, so I have a year on it. It would be super expensive to try and break it. He unfortunately knows where I work and live. I'm very scared. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. One of your first steps should be cutting off contact. He is your ex, and that necessarily means you cannot be the first line of emotional support for him anymore. He can whine about how sad he is to his own support system. This man stole from you and is a drunken fool. Cultivate some coldness towards him. Block him if you want, but you may want to keep the lines open, but not respond, in case he starts to escalate when he can no longer cry on your shoulder. Evidence is helpful for dealing with drunken fools. Comment 2. You are not responsible for his choices. He is an adult man who makes his own decisions about his own behavior, and it has nothing to do with you. You cannot save him from himself, nor should you sacrifice yourself trying. Move on. Block him. Go out of town with some girlfriends or something. Don't go to places where he knows he can find you. If he chooses self-destruction, you have to understand that it's his choice and not your responsibility. Don't let his mother convince you otherwise. Block her too. Now, for the update. 2 weeks after that whole mess, I guess I'm getting used to being on my own. It's a weird vibe, not being in constant chaos. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still feel like I'm on high alert all the time, but not dealing with my ex every day is a relief. My friends have been great too, just checking in on me and making sure I'm all right. Honestly, I don't think I'd be doing as well if it wasn't for them. I've been trying to focus on work and just getting back to some kind of normal. And by normal, I mean not feeling super stressed every second of the day. I stopped responding to my ex's calls and texts. At first, I felt bad about it, like maybe he was really trying to get help or something. But then I realized, no, he was just trying to get me back, and I wasn't having any of it. A week ago, he sent me this long text saying he was in a support group and that he really wanted to get better. I didn't even read the whole thing, just skimmed it and moved on with my day. Work was busy, and I had other stuff to deal with. One morning, I found this note slipped under my door. It was from my ex, and it was asking to talk, like in person. He said he wanted to apologize for everything. Just reading that made me feel uneasy. But I locked my door and didn't think much about it. I didn't tell anyone about the note either. I didn't want to freak anyone out or make a big deal of something that maybe wasn't a big deal. Then, like a few days later, I noticed a strange car parked outside my apartment. It was just sitting there for hours. It was there a couple more times throughout the week, and that's when I started getting a little worried. I took a picture of the license plate just in case, but I didn't think much else of it. Last week, I was getting groceries and ran into my ex at the store. He approached me while I was in the checkout line and started chatting like we were old pals. He looked sober and tried to engage me in some small talk, asking about work and random stuff. I just calmly told him to leave me alone. He got all defensive, saying I didn't understand him and that he was making real changes. I didn't want a scene in the store or anything, so I just quickly left and got out of there. The next day, I thought it was time to switch things up. I had been going to that same grocery store for a while, and maybe it was time for a change. So I tried a different one. While I was shopping, I bumped into my friend Sarah. I hadn't seen her in a while, so it was nice to catch up. She invited me to a small gathering at her house that weekend, and I was all in for that. At the gathering, I noticed my ex's friend was there. He brought up my ex, saying he was struggling but was trying to get better. This made me uncomfortable because I didn't want to talk about him. I brushed it off and changed the subject. The following week, I got a text from my ex's friend about a party he was having. He said my ex would be there and that I should come. I didn't want to go anywhere near him, so I declined the invitation. Later that week, I got an unexpected package at my door. It was a bottle of wine and a note from my ex saying he missed me. The note was all sappy, but I didn't even read it all. I just threw the bottle away. The next day, I saw that same strange car parked outside again. This time, I called a friend to keep me company for a bit. My friend noticed how weird the situation was. We decided to go out for dinner to get our minds off stuff. As we were leaving the restaurant, we spotted my ex outside. He approached us, looking all disheveled and desperate. He tried to plead his case, saying he had changed and that I should give him another chance. I firmly told him to leave us alone or I would call someone. He stepped back, looking shocked. The following week, I got a call from my landlord about my ex. She mentioned he had been seen around the building multiple times and that she was concerned. I started documenting everything, just in case I needed it later. I also contacted a locksmith to discuss changing my locks. I didn't want to take any chances. Thank you for reading. To answer a few questions, my ex's friend didn't know how bad things were between us. When he mentioned the party, he thought I would be okay with it since he believed my ex was improving. I didn't feel comfortable mentioning the strange car to my friend when she visited. It seemed minor at the time. I haven't shown any of my friends the note or the text from my ex because I didn't want them to worry unnecessarily. After the grocery store incident, I considered changing my shopping habits to stay safe. Now I'm focusing on getting my locks changed. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for refusing to let my dad's manipulative girlfriend attend my wedding? To add, many people are commenting the same thing, so I just want to clear something up. Poppy seemed to be a nice lady. I just looked it up because I was confused. It seems like I haven't written it down properly. Sorry for the confusion. My parents have been separated since I was about 7 years old, and they handled it awfully. What followed were years of them talking badly behind each other's back to us, fights, even in the street, which was super embarrassing. and mental abuse by my mother, who especially handled things badly after my dad cheated on her. They both generally didn't fit well together. This just ended things, definitely. My mom is like a firecracker. She can explode from one moment to another and doesn't care who she hurts doing so. She always used to be like this. It sounds crazy, but besides that, she was just a single mom with 3 kids who worked her hardest for us. I never doubted that she loved us, but if something negative happened, school-related especially, she would scream and cry for hours, going from "I'm such a bad mother" to saying hurtful things about what she was doing for us. My dad couldn't provide at that time. It was rough. Years later, I'm now 29. We have a good relationship. She apologized, now married for years. My father apologized, and after I found the best person on earth who was even willing to work with me on some of those issues, I eventually got as a child of divorce. We got engaged, and I will formally marry soon. The wedding party will be in 2026. My parents' relationship is good now. They can peacefully coexist in one room, and it's nice. Now my father has a girlfriend. I'll call her Poppy, and she's a kind, nice lady from his hometown. They rekindled and have been dating for over 10 years. I really liked her. She was the perfect mix of kind, funny, and educated, and I felt like my father opened up more again. Now, like 7 years ago, I was 22. My mom and she were close friends until they had a falling out. Apparently, Poppy told my mom all the things we said about her when I was around 17 years old. We talked badly about our mom because of her character and her inability to hold discussions without screaming at us at full volume and making us hate her existence. And my mother, of course, felt betrayed by us. Apparently, Poppy went on about how we think she's a psycho, that nobody wants to be near her, and other things. Apparently, the fight started because Poppy told my mother that she cheated on my dad, and my mother said she needed to tell him the truth. After she refused, my mother wrote to my dad and told him. In my opinion, my mother has many flaws, but I felt like she was always honest. So I guess I believed her when she told me the story. Apparently, Poppy has been doing shady stuff in general, trying to trick my brother into giving her money. She made me feel bad at 17, so I gave her my dad's iPad password, which, well, didn't go well. She made my father leave our family chat group that contained my mother in it. As you can imagine, it was easy to believe my mom after all that. I don't have any contact with her, only when I'm at my dad's and they FaceTime. Am I civil? They have a long-distance relationship. She always seems fake nice to me. Now, my mother told me that she will not come to my wedding party unless Poppy stays at home. My brothers and I talked to her about it, but she's dead set on it, which of course I can understand. Now, I don't know the full story, and it might sound heartless, but my mother is prone to overreacting badly sometimes. She takes criticism poorly, and it always ends with her yelling and us just not caring anymore. Not saying Poppy is right at all, but I'm caught between two sides. And honestly, I'm super upset. After all those years of mental torture from my distant father, who still can't properly show affection most of the time, and my emotionally draining mother, I'm so upset that after all they put me and my brothers through, they can't just do this one thing for me and be civil for one day. I'm no bridezilla, but I think everyone understands when I want this to be about my fiancé and me. A day with our loved ones. They don't contribute financially, by the way. I will talk to my dad, but I don't even know how to tell him what my mom said. I'm tired of this and don't know what to do. Any advice on what I should do? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Honestly, elope. Plan a vacation and get married somewhere beautiful. Anyone who truly cares about you will want you to have a stress-free wedding, whether they are there to witness the moment or not. Then have a party when you get back. Invite anyone you want. And if someone else doesn't want to come, they can RSVP no. Comment 2. Why invite Poppy? Just curious. She has only stirred up drama with you all and tried to hurt the relationship with your mom, dad, and between you all. Poppy seems like a major problem. It's really inappropriate she asked for money from your brothers. Just invite your parents without a +1. Now, for the update. 2 weeks after my last post, I called my dad to talk about the wedding situation. He was busy but promised to call me back later that day. Spent the day just thinking about how to say everything without making things worse. Not sure how I could do that, but I figured I'd give it a shot. Later that evening, my dad called back and asked to meet up for dinner to talk about it. We chose a local Italian restaurant where my parents used to take me as a kid. Just walking in there brought back a lot of memories, you know? During dinner, I brought up the wedding guest list and mentioned my mom's concerns about Poppy. His face just kind of dropped. Dad frowned and said Poppy was really excited about the wedding and wanted to be included. I told him I understood that, but reminded him that my mom wouldn't attend if Poppy was there. He sighed and said he was just so tired of the drama between them and wanted to enjoy the day. Like, who wouldn't? I suggested a compromise, like having a separate area for Poppy at the reception. He didn't like that idea at all. Said it would only make things more complicated. We ended up arguing because he thought I was being unfair to Poppy. My dad accused me of holding grudges against Poppy for past stuff. I mean, it's not just that, it's how she acted recently too. He just dismissed my concerns, saying Poppy was good for him and that I needed to accept that. That really hurt, to be honest. The next day, I got a text from my mom asking about dinner with Dad. I told her it didn't go well, and she wanted more details. I explained the whole argument, and she brought up Poppy's past again. Like, we get it, Poppy has a shady past. My mom mentioned that Poppy had invited her to lunch the following week. I felt uneasy about my mom having lunch with Poppy. I told her that it could lead to more drama, but my mom insisted it was a chance to clear the air. I was just skeptical about this whole thing. Later that week, I overheard my mom on the phone with a friend talking about the lunch. She mentioned how she was nervous but wanted to try to resolve things. I was shocked when I heard her planning to confront Poppy about her comments. That could either go really well or really bad. The lunch happened, and my mom texted me afterwards saying it was just awkward. She said Poppy deflected all the serious topics and focused on small talk. Classic Poppy, right? A few days later, my dad invited me to a family gathering at their house. I arrived to find Poppy already there, which just made everything so much more uncomfortable. We had dinner, and Poppy tried to engage in small talk with me. I kept my responses short, like one-word answers. She looked annoyed, but honestly, I didn't care. My dad noticed the tension and tried to lighten the mood with jokes, but it just wasn't working. During dessert, Poppy brought up the wedding and asked if I was excited. My dad interjected, saying we should all just focus on the wedding. It was like we had this unspoken agreement to not talk about it at all, you know? The conversation shifted, but the atmosphere was still kinda heavy. Edit. Since posting, I've received a lot of suggestions for how to manage the wedding situation, so I wanted to share what I've done. I spoke with my partner, and we decided to have an open discussion about the guest list with both parents. We figured this would clear up any misunderstandings. We also talked about having a wedding planner to help manage any issues that might arise. Additionally, some people suggested sending Poppy and my mom separate invitations. We decided against that because we didn't want to escalate tensions further. I really hope that all this will lead to a more peaceful wedding experience.